The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast.
The 44 gets loose off of corner number 4. It's going to be a photo finish to the line in the grass, but the 44 will hang on for the win. Here he comes with the crossover. Felison to the inside. Is it going to be a Las Vegas photo finish? They touch. They wreck. Who's going to get it? Upside down. Who's going to get it?
Felison gets it.
Ooh, by himself. Now he has a 72 of O'Connor. It's going to be a 2v2 race to the checkers. 2 up top, 2 to the bottom. It's going to be Ingram. It's going to be Rainville. Who's going to get it at the stripe? Photo finish. It's going to be Rainville. Is there enough? This is going to be a close finish. What is going to happen? Is there enough fuel to get him around 2 more corners? He didn't have enough. The final corner. There goes Zach Nichols. Sarah ran out with 3 corners to go, and Zach Nichols will win here at Mosport. And is he going to go for the last-ditch effort? Is he going to use the back bumper? What will Devin Serra do? We head into corner number 3. He's going to sail it on in there. Does he get to the bumper? He turns him. He turns it for the win. He wrecks him. We saw how Ruddy, is that a word? Ruddy?
I don't know. Just go with it.
All right, we'll go with it. We've seen how Ruddy turn 3 is getting. And
so these guys, once again, doubled up, stacked up, and ready to go back green flag racing here behind the iRacing.com Facebook pace car.
Don't know where that came from, but we'll let it slide.
What was I thinking?
Built on a man-made island in the St. Lawrence River, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, or Montreal for short, has been the home of the Canadian Grand Prix since 1978. As a hybrid permanent road course, with temporary street circuit sections, the high speeds and plentiful chicanes test drivers' will and guts. If you can keep it off of the concrete walls and be a master of heavy braking, you have a fine chance to be successful here above the border. Tonight we find out who in the Red Sox Racing League has the skills as they test out Montreal in their summer campaign. Welcome everybody to PTR TV on a Thursday night for the Red Sox Racing League race number 2 of their summer campaign here at Montreal. Currently, we are under qualifying right now, as we usually do cover in the series. Right now, our GT3 cars are on track now with about a minute's time left in the session as we, again, on race number 2 in our 6-week summer series campaign. Just had a race last week at Montreal, so actually double weeks above the border here in Canada, and we did see a great finish there, and we'll see if indeed that does happen. One thing that did happen week to week is we have had a massive car count increase, particularly in TCR, as last week at Mosport we only had 6 drivers, I believe, if memory serves, did actually complete the race in TCR, but basically we have, it looks like 23 to 24 drivers ready in a pretty even split in regards to our class participation here. So that will definitely facilitate some good racing here at Montreal, where it is a definite skill track, and it will definitely test out everybody's braking abilities, as I said in the opening monologue, as you can see here on the screen, heading down into the final chicane here where the Wall of Champions is situated, as it does certainly take many drivers by surprise here. Very easy to get into the wall. Then you head on to the front straightaway here as qualifying is over, but we do have our cool down session where any live laps will be able to be completed. You have the opening chicane here in turn number 1. That basically is the name of the game here at Montreal. Again, coming underneath the Napa Bridge. What do we find next? Take a guess. We have another chicane on the left, right, probably like, I think at least 4 to 5 chicanes we do have in the layout here, followed by the big hairpin at the end of the circuit. So definitely going to see where these guys are going to be willing to make those passes. Most of them are going to be on the straightaways, and again, the chicanes are where you're going to see drivers really testing themselves. How aggressive do you want to be? How aggressive do you feel comfortable being? There's a little bit of a kerfuffle going on here right now in qualifying. Ross Booth on our provisional pole. Booth last week actually had the pole in GT3, and unfortunately for him ended up having some kind of technical issues that took him and sent him to the rear of the field. So we'll see if he can actually keep himself there. Mitch Heller ended up being the one to take command in the victory in GT3 last week, with Jason Breifogel on his continued hot streak. Got the win in TCR, but he's going to have a lot more competition. We'll have the starting lineup in just a moment, but there are some fast guys, and he is not on the pole this week, so we'll see indeed how that does shake out. Again, race number 2, we will be able to cover 5 of the 6 weeks of the schedule in the series. We do have a little 4th of July race we will be missing, so you'll still want to stay tuned for at least the 5 of the 6 weeks that we do have as the series does continue. But that's running down our timer here, about 10 seconds left on the stopwatch. I want to thank everybody for tuning into PTR TV for the Red Sox Racing League. Again, myself, Corey Silva, giving you the calls and producing the images that you see on screen here this evening. But that is our qualifying session coming to a close, so we're going to go down trackside and give you the PTR TV starting lineup here today from Montreal. On our overall pole in the GT3 class, Ross Booth with 5.608 seconds. Mitch Heller, last week's winner, to his outside. In third, Shinya Sakut, haven't seen him in a little bit. Alex Kitzlar is going to be in the 4th spot. In 5th place, we do have Adam Jones. Again, he had a lot of good runs last season. And Chad Dalton in 6th, Robert Kansian in 7th, Reed Rundle in 8th, Bill Pawlucky in 9th, Mark Kidrowski in 10th. James Prostel and Chris Wider, the last to take the time in GT3. Then we have Austin Knight on the pole in TCR with Mark Wilson in 2nd. Jason Breifogel, he's in 3rd. Let's see if he can go back-to-back. Ben Schweigart, if I'm getting that right, in 4th. Les Turner in 5th. Dwayne McCarthy in 6th. Again, this is our TCR lineup. Brian Irby in 7th. Chris Jimenez in 8th. Ed Sutcliffe in 9th. And then David Berry is in 10th, and then the remaining drivers did not qualify. It was Zach Kruger in GT3, Scott Ross, and Jesse Bodas in TCR. We are on the back stretch here, so we will have a very, very abbreviated pace lap. Our keys to the race, sponsored by Still Looking for a Sponsor. Slipstreaming is going to be very big here. Threshold braking, getting the maximum braking power as possible without locking it up, and chicanes, more chicanes. You have to know how to drive. You have to be efficient in them, because that's what we're going to be dealing with here this evening. Our weather conditions here tonight, I thought they were a little bit closer to that corner than they seem to be. Our weather conditions, 77 in the air, 85 on the track, 56% humidity, and negligible wind. As these guys already getting through the final chicane and on to the front straightaway here. And this is our GT3 guys getting ready. You can see on the long shot there, TCR has about a 10-second staggered start. Waiting for the loud pedal to be pressed by our GT3 class. There they go, off into corner number 1, side by side with Booth and Heller through the opening chicane, making sure everybody can get through nice and cleanly. As here comes TCR not too far back with Austin Knight, Mark Wilson. They're going to be taking that green flag about 10 or so seconds behind our race leaders. And oh no, boo, there goes Knight, excuse me, misses the first chicane, goes through the grass, luckily able to save it. We'll see if he gets a slowdown penalty from that. Very well may have. We don't have to go to replay on that because we obviously caught it live, but he did keep the lead, and whether he's able to keep the lead via the slowdown system, it seems like he has. Nope, there he goes. He had to pull wide. He was hit with the slowdown for cutting the circuit, although unintentionally. And just due to the nature of how the simulator does catch it, if you get a slowdown penalty on the first lap, it is back-breaking just due to how the calculations work. So he's going to lose a lot more time than he normally would have. Breifogel able to hang on to the second spot as Schweigart in 3rd just behind him. We'll go back up front into GT3 as they are, I believe it to be heading to, on to the final chicane. So here, everyone hopping that curb, and the wall of champions there to the left underneath the ticker. The curbs there, you kind of have to get into them so that you can actually make the corner. They do help you rotate, but if you hit them too hard on the second side, sometimes you will end up hitting that wall. So things to be very careful on. This little side-by-side going on at the back of the field. Want to give all these guys their appropriate love and airtime. Prostel and Widener having a quick little battle there, and looks like in TCR, Mark Wilson trying to pull away from Breifogel. Again, the slipstream definitely is going to make it difficult this evening to get away. I think you're going to have to get a gap of a little over a second before you can have a comfort in knowing that you're probably going to be clear of any slipstream issues and having those guys come back at you here. Mitch Heller, our GT3 leader, trying to get through the hairpin here, and Ross Booth in 2nd. Booth obviously did not hold the pole position for very long, but here he comes down the back straightaway into the chicane. Is he going to pull and make a move? You know, there's going to be a lot of snaking, a lot of games A lot of stuff played there coming through the chicane. You can see Heller there really hopping that curb as we head down our front straightaway here, but he did get a better run off, pulls him by about a quarter of a second. Kadrowski around in that Golf 944 machine. Let's go back on replay and try to figure out what happened there. Replay on your screen. Whoa! I don't know if that was a braking issue or what. Let's try to go on board if we can. He just completely missed the braking zone. I don't know what, if something happened on the technical end or what happened there, but he just missed the braking zone by an absolute long shot here. Looks like we do have a battle for TCR. Breyfogle has eliminated that 7/10 gap, and now he is looking high, looking low, all over the back of Wilson, and then that conga line right behind of Schweigart, Turner, and McCarthy. And you can see the braking zone difference as Breyfogle a lot harder on the brakes into these corners, but on these chicanes, it does have some benefit to be easy in, hard out, especially leading into these long straightaways. Look at all that time that Breyfogle gains on entry. But then you can just see on the ticker on the bottom left of your screen, you can see on the ticker that Wilson's able to pull away by about a tenth or so every single time. It works in his favor. Les Turner trying to close in on this battle as well. Batman, remember, he won Donington at the end of last season, but looking at our telemetry as well, we can see that something is instigating up front in GT3. Booth back to within about 0.2 of a second of Heller, running a little bit lower of a line there through the first segment of the track. We're going to head into the first chicane here. Looks like Booth is just all over the back, but one thing in this Red Sox Racing League that is most notable is that these drivers are very, very respectful. You don't see any bump and runs. You don't see any unsportsmanlike racing, so even if the runs are there, they're not going to take them if the opportunity is not going to be fair and sportsmanlike. So definitely good to see. See on the brakes here underneath the bridge into the next chicane, and now we're going to lead into the sharpest and slowest turn on the track, the hairpin here at Montreal, where it's very easy to take the lead, very easy to get a run, very easy to lose a run. You can see, let's see what Booth does. He's going to go a little bit wider. He's going to try to cut and get that run underneath and then drag race him down the backstretch here, and I think he did just that. But just wasn't able to sustain it, but he's going to be with that slipstream. He's going to have that opportunity to make something happen here, and we're going to have to go on replay. Something happened with Breyfogle and Knight while we were watching this battle, and you can just see we're trying to figure out what happened, and we're going to go back just a little bit, folks, here and try to figure out what happened in TCR. I think we do have it on screen right now. Instant replay. This was Wilson and Breyfogle. Breyfogle was going for the lead here on the brakes, and the 999 machine, Ben Swigart, just kind of got into the left rear of Breyfogle, and no harm, no foul in terms of permanent damage, but unfortunately for Breyfogle, he's going to lose multiple seconds. Now he's going to be 4 seconds off, and oh no, Les Turner. What happened to Turner here? A lot of stuff going on, a lot of action, a lot of calamity. Let's go back and fire up the replay. The replay is going to be quite busy here. We'll go and view this from our chopper cam. Heading into the hairpin, Turner seemed to have plenty of space. That yellow machine, I'm trying to see, I think that's Dwayne McCarthy. Yes, it is. Just you can see braking issues. I talked about it on my keys to the race. Braking issues seem to be the determining factor in how this race is going. With the third braking-related incident we've seen thus far in only 8 minutes of on-track action, but headed down our back straightaway one more time. Booth, when I get into this point, I almost wonder if he's trying to take the lead, because where they have such similar pace, it almost is akin to a NASCAR super speedway of sorts, where you have that opportunity to just use the slipstream, stay close, try to force a mistake, and just be there and make that move at the very end of the race. Kind of a risky strategy, but something that, you know, is something that we see many a time in these races. And speaking of NASCAR, we actually do have a very NASCAR-oriented race next week at Watkins Glen. Per our schedule, Cup Classic is where we're going to be running, so there's a short layout there at the Glen, but circa the 1991 and before configuration, we're not going to run the interloop. So basically it turns into almost a 6-turn high-speed road course. No boot, no chicane, so that's definitely going to probably be the easiest race on the schedule, but it's also going to be probably the most exciting for that exact reason. So you'll want to stay tuned for that next week. Of course, that chicane was added in after the passing of J.D. McDuffie in 1991 with a terrible crash entering the carousel at full speed. Of course, that's what happened there. So we do have our first class interaction of the race. That's Jesse Bodas in the number 100 machine. He's in the Honda Civic this evening. He's going to go and lose an overall lap. Of course, he is not worried about the overall lap. He's worried about his TCR race standings, but we'll see what happens here up front. Oh no, who's that? There's another Hyundai up there. That's the number 512, Scott Ross, a newcomer to the lead. He's going to go to the far left and get out of the way. Remember last week at Mossport, lap traffic, TCR traffic, ended up being the difference in the race, catching it at the wrong time and the right time. We'll see if that does happen. I wouldn't expect it in the same capacity because there is more room here to get out of the way and to make things happen. Looks like our pace difference between classes is about 11 to 12 seconds. So we'll see how that does play out. Again, the speed differences here. Maybe we can get a speed trap on the back straightaway for each of these drivers. Again, more drivers going one lap down in the overall standings. That was Ed Sutcliffe in the red, white, and blue Hyundai Elantra, I believe it to be. And that's David Berry in the 14 machine. In the Pennzoil Hyundai, he is going to get out of the way, but look at Booth all the way to that back bumper. This is probably the closest he's been. I think this is the most assertive he's been for a pass, and he uses that slipstream to his advantage and takes the lead heading into the chicane. Now, did he overshoot it? A lot of time happens when you make those slipstream passes. A lot of times you overshoot it, but he did not do that. So power move by Booth. Let's see if he's able to pull away. Let's see if Heller is able to stay within the drafting range. Now looks like so far Heller is pulling away. So we'll keep an eye on that. Trying to see what other battles we have going on track right here. Live battle going on between Dwayne McCarthy and Brian Irby. And Irby had a great run last season at Homestead, if memory serves. Hasn't been able to make it up since. You can see a GT3 trying to get through there. That is actually our leader, Ross Booth. He's just going to split the difference. Now there's 3 TCRs. Oh no, something happened. I think we lost somebody there with connectivity issues. I think it was actually Irby, but that's definitely hurting Heller. Heller is now about a second and a half behind Booth, so definitely splitting up the things, splitting up the gaps there. Looks like Prostel potentially trying to take a pass on Widener. We saw that earlier in the race. But up front in TCR, we have Wilson and Schweigert. Schweigert is closing in via the slipstream down the back straightaway into the chicane to take off another lap. We're on lap number 8. Schweigert going for the lead to the inside. Hyundai versus Honda side by side at the stripe. That would have been a photo finish if it was for the race win, but heading on to the binders for turn number 1 in the opening chicane. Schweigert looks like he is going to take the lead in the 999. Wilson is going to pull the crossover move. He's going to try to get him in the next chicane. We do have, I believe that's Booth. Yep, Booth is just behind. And Wilson just completely backed out of the way, cost himself quite a bit of time. I know he wanted to do the best he could to be fair, but I think he actually hurt himself more than he needed to there. So the lead battles have temporarily fizzled out. Remember, we're still waiting on pit stops. We do have our limited fuel loads. Typically, we see pit stops about the 50 to 60% distance point in the races. So usually that ends up being between 10 and 15 minutes. We see these guys going for their last pit stops of the event. Well, first and last, excuse me. Knight and Breyfogle. Knight trying to take a look here. You can see a gaggle of vehicles there just going through the chicane just in front of these guys. Knight's going to get that run on the right side of Breyfogle, but just can't get the loud pedal down hard enough. And there's a GT3 just splitting the difference between the two of them, and another one just in front. That's Chad Dalton and Robert Kansian. Kansian having a quiet summer season thus far. Usually he is a lot closer to the front. Saw him have many a good races last year, but so far, well, last season rather, but a little bit quieter this time around. We'll see if that continues, but looks like Schweigert and Wilson able to get through that funk relatively cleanly. See the gaps on the left side of your display right now. Booth up by over 2 seconds now, so he's definitely got through that traffic and has been able to take advantage of it thoroughly and given himself a comfortable gap up there. Thought there may have been a battle fizzling between Turner and McCarthy, but looks like it has temporarily ceased. But the battle for the lead in that class in TCR is still hot and heavy. Schweigert up by about 7/10. Now the drafting range does end up being typically about a second. Once you get over a second, I mean, you might get a toe here and there, but the difference is going to be a lot harder for you to completely swallow up, similar to how Formula One, you have the 1 second DRS buffer. It's kind of, I mean, obviously we don't have DRS, but the concept is pretty much the same. If you're within a second, you're going to get a big arrow pull. If you're without of that, you might get something, but not enough to make any substantial passes from it. See a big gaggle going on there as McCarthy and Turner letting by some faster GT3 machines. Trying to just get some guys on camera that we usually don't get on camera. Do have 3 drivers who have pulled behind the wall already. Kadrowski, Kruger, and Sutcliffe all out of today's efforts. There goes Ross Booth up by almost 3 seconds now. So he's definitely just pulling off and getting some comfort here in his Porsche. Now you can see here on the left side of your screen, on the red section, the TCR is on the bottom. Breyfogle is not necessarily out of this yet. Now he's having to get out of the way for the number 37 of Chris Widener. Prostel having one of his better runs here, trying to get by and staying with Widener if possible. But I don't think Breyfogle's out of this. He's about 5 seconds behind the class lead, but with a good pit stop and just, you know, chugging off 3-4 tenths at a time, which he is more than capable of doing given his past efforts. I really think he does still have a long shot at this. The circumstances will definitely have to play right for him, and they very well may, because we do have some GT3s trying to get by our overall TCR leaders. And that, well, they'll get by on the straightaway, so that shouldn't really cause any issues with any unnecessary time loss. So that actually works out if you are a Schweigert or a Wilson fan. Of course, a name you may be wondering where he is, Terry Dahl, league owner, league admin here with the Red Sox Racing League, is he is not here this week, as the 6 hours of Watkins Glen, from what I have gathered on Twitter, is this weekend. He, being a New York native, is going to be attending that race in person, so not able to race here this week. But they do come with the drop week in the Red Sox Racing, so of a 6-week campaign, only 5 weeks count, so he's not going to have the free pass of a wreck to get abolished. So any incidents he does have, he will have to take the points for. So that is just kind of the note of how that goes. But we do have Adam Jones and Alex Kietzlar, both in the new Mercedes 2020 GT3s. They're in the closest live battle on track right now. Kietzlar in the snaking down the back straightaway. We'll see what happens underneath the Dodge Bridge into the bus stop. And it looks like Jones is going to be our first taker onto pit road, at least that I have noticed thus far. Just past our halfway point. Pitting out of the 4th spot, or 3rd spot rather. See when TCRs start pitting. See, all you'll have to do is just go completely straight, and then there's a separate chicane there, as we saw one of the TCRs pull off. Trying to make out who that was that pulled off there. I believe, there we go, that was Austin Knight. He is going to be the first TCR on the pit road. So pit stops going off here with about 15 minutes left in tonight's session. We've completed 13 laps, and our estimate is about 22 laps on the evening that we should be running here. So we'll see what does happen. A couple more drivers on pit road right now. There goes Brian Irby in the Bazooka machine. Dwayne McCarthy in the pits. Reed Rundle, haven't talked about him at all, and he's had some great runs last season in GT4. Hasn't, at least the first 2 races of this season, not running the paces that you would expect of him given his past success. So we'll see if maybe he's able to tune that up and have some good finishes to our season. But he is in 10th right now, has already completed his pit stop as well. Here comes Chad Dalton out of the 4th spot, coming down pit road, along with Alex Kietzlar. Now we'll see if when our top 2 decide to come to pit road. Now Booth up this point by over 6 seconds over Mitch Heller, running about last time by, running about 1.2 seconds a lap faster. Just absolutely just turning the jets on is Booth, trying to redeem himself from his issues that he had last week at Mossport, when unfortunately the race was given away via whatever happened to him on the opening lap. He's going to enter the hairpin, and coming to 12 minutes to go. See if he chooses to come to pit road this time by. See something going on here in TCR. Looks like everybody, here comes Schweigert exiting the pits. Breifogel exited the pits a few seconds behind. So it looks like there's Les Turner, Chris Jimenez. So it looks like at least in TCR, everybody coming to pit road. And here comes our overall leader, Ross Booth, as well as Mitch Heller. So looks like this is the farthest stretch of a pit stop that we've seen. We've seen races this season, guys have been able to go longer, but think just due to the nature of this course with the fast, such on throttle time, just due to the layout here, you are going to be using a lot more fuel than even say Mossport last week, where there was a lot slower laps and slower top speeds and a lot less full throttle time. You'll save yourself some fuel in that process. Looks like the gap did grow just a little bit, went from a little over 6 seconds to roughly 7.5. So Booth just had that much better of a stop. See, on the back end, I can actually see the pit lane time was almost equal between the two. But Mitch Heller actually had a 1.5 second longer stop, which would insinuate he packed that tank with a little bit more fuel than Booth did. Now, we haven't really seen fuel come into play at all this season, so I would imagine that Booth did what he needs to do, but it's always a talking point to make sure that these guys have enough fuel in the tanks. Mark Wilson in TCR has definitely used these pit stops to his advantage. Actually, let's see. Yeah, Mark Wilson, he used that pit stop to his advantage and gained a fair bit of time there. Actually, no, he took the lead off of that. I read the telemetry had to update. Yeah, so Wilson took the lead over Schweigert. Schweigert had just taken the lead, taken whatever the word is, before that cycle. I'm trying to see what any difference is. I don't really see any obvious difference there, but that's definitely going to set up a great battle for TCR. I think that's going to be where the money is made and the excitement is. Because we have 4 guys really within, well, 3 guys you can see right in slipstream range of each other. As there they go, going for the lead. Schweigert's trying to get it back, but Austin Knight there, he is right there in that yellow and blue machine, yellow, blue, and white machine. And then you can see on the telemetry, Breifogel, he was 3 seconds back, but with this intense battling that we do have going on, he was 3 seconds back. Now he's 2. He's going to be able to grab that slipstream in very, very due course. So this very well could turn into 4 drivers going for the win in the touring car division here tonight. We'll see how aggressive Austin Knight does want to be. Do you want to make your move? Again, to my points earlier, do you want to make your moves early? Do you want to wait? It kind of requires almost a little bit of strategy akin to what you'd see almost in NASCAR. So here we come side by side for that race lead. Austin Knight's going to go to the inside. Let's see if he can woe it down enough. He had that issue on lap number 1, but he's going to get it woed down just enough, and he's going to make that corner successfully. Now, is he going to be able to hold on to that gap? And how aggressive and how impatient is Mark Wilson going to be when it comes to trying to get that spot back? Breifogel has used this to get to within 2 seconds. He's essentially a straightaway from probably even being within on the back bumper of Schweigert, because I think the slipstream is going to be he's 1.3 seconds behind the 999. Remember, it was the 999, and remember, he does serve, who actually caused him his issues earlier in the race, I believe. I don't want to make false accusations, but I believe he did. So it'd be kind of circle of events there if he was able to get back to him. But here comes Mark Wilson. Took a dive there in the chicane, but not able to do so, rather in the hairpin. When you make a move in the hairpin like that, if it doesn't work out, you usually end up costing yourself on the straightaway. So we'll see if that is what happens here through the nature of the slipstream. We'll see what happens. These guys coming into the chicane. It's not how you enter it, it's how you exit it. You can see how much closer Breifogel has managed to get here on the front straightaway from our flagger cam. This is definitely where the battle is. You can see on the left side of your screen that in TCR, or rather in GT3, absolutely nothing going on. Booth has just drove off into the proverbial sunset here. So we're going to focus on this and try to keep you alert if anything does happen in GT4. Maybe a battle shaping up between Cancian and Paul Lucky. We haven't really talked about Paul Lucky, but he's doing a fabulous job in 7th, closing in on 6, so we'll keep a loose eye on that while we focus on what's going on in Touring Car. This is kind of the highlight of today's race. Usually the highlights in GT3, but tonight it's actually going to be in Touring Car, as here comes our leader, Ross Booth, kind of splitting the gaps here, and this is the 2nd lap that he has put on Touring Car, so again, this shows how drastic the pace is. But now Knight is up by nearly a second now, so he's at that point where the slipstream is starting to become weaker and weaker. So Mark Wilson is really going to have to pull himself up by his bootstraps here, and if he's going to want to catch up. He's at that 9/10, mid 9/10, not really gaining too much more. The worst thing you want to do as a race car driver in this position, the worst thing you want to do is start pushing your corners more. You don't want to start diving in deeper. You don't want to start braking later. That's what your brain tells you to do. But I'll tell you from experience, it's the last thing that actually ends up working. You just have to take a deep breath, focus, do what you did all race. We know Wilson has some pretty good pace. We know that he can handle and hang with Knight. But you just have to be smooth, take advantage of the mistakes, if any, that Knight makes, and just do what you know how to do and let the cards fall as they may. Now he's within that 8, 9, 10th gap, which if he can get to a straightaway with that same gap, he may be able to use the slipstream. But here comes Schweigert. He is going to make that a little bit harder by trying to make these passes here. Wilson took a little bit of a defensive line, and that defensive line hurt his whole corner, particularly his exit, and that gave Knight as just that long enough of a gap that he needed, as Mitch Heller in the 45 closing on in, and we'll see if there's any effect, whether positive or negative, for these touring car guys as Heller gets by. These guys are probably hoping that there's some kind of little kerfuffle that goes on, or maybe this causes Knight to go wide or something like that, but it looks like that is not going to be the case. I do personally believe as though Knight has broken that slipstream range, so believe he should be fine. Breifogel has not been able to catch up to these drivers as well. Alex Kietzlar trying to get through in his monster Mercedes, and does so successfully. Again, just going back to the front, where we do have, again, Ross Booth in that number 6 machine. That number 6 Porsche. He has been up front basically this entire race, less maybe the first few laps and pit stops, but ever since he got the lead and was able to break the slipstream range, he has just driven off into oblivion here, and just has absolutely just floored these guys up by over 10 seconds. We haven't seen too many gaps in the Red Sox Racing League that have amounted to such large deficits. So when someone does have this big of a lead, you know they did something right. And full marks go to Booth on his efforts. I actually did see his twitch. Whoa, getting a little bit wide there, almost hitting the fence there, exiting the hairpin. I actually saw a little bit of his Twitch stream. Actually, a pretty entertaining Twitch streamer, if I'm being completely honest. So be interesting to kind of see his perspective here as he runs this track oh so very well. Looks like Bill Pollucky, by the way, we were just talking about him maybe having some issues as well. It has pulled off of the track, but we're closing in on the point that should be 1 to go, as we do have, again, the battle going on for second in TCR, because obviously Knight has pulled away by now 3.5 seconds. My God, that has escalated very quickly. But Wilson and Schweigert going for second in TCR for the moment. So we should get one more lap after this. Again, our average laps are about 1 minute and 35 seconds. So we're going to probably take the white flag with about, I'd say, 15-20 seconds, somewhere on those lines. Actually, maybe not even. It might actually be closer to just about a minute. It's hard to tell, but there's going to be plenty of time when we do cross the stripe, so that will automatically give us the white flag, and we'll complete what will be 22 laps around Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Forgive any lack of accent that I have, but that's the best that I'm going to be able to say it. But we're going to come here for race number 2 of the Red Sox Racing League, and again to see a dominating performance by Ross Booth, that redemption that he needed after last week's issue and not having the chance to take over the race as he would have liked to. 55 seconds on our timer, so that's well within the distance of one average lap here. So we're going to come down and down the front straightaway for the penultimate time, and we'll see if the flagger... Apparently we don't have a flagger, but I would imagine so, that this will be the last lap of the race. There it is, the white flag formally being presented here for the Red Sox Racing League, and 13.5 seconds is the gap that we do have. So as long as nothing goes on, we will have Ross Booth as our GT3 winner, and Austin Knight coming down into the final chicane and by the Wall of Champions, and he will take the final white flag. Well, he will take the white flag, a little extra verbiage there, for our TCR class. Booth closing in on the first chicane that leads us to the hairpin here, so about halfway through the lap. Actually, he's coming through the hairpin here, so again, it's kind of hard from certain... There's so many chicanes here at this track, it's actually kind of hard to get a perspective of which one you're at sometimes, but he's actually already on the final straightaway here, leading into the final chicane. So again, started on the pole, lost it, had to get it back. Once he got it back, he took it with a vengeance and pulled away to 15 seconds, getting the redemption from last week. Ross Booth is going to win our GT3 class at Montreal for the Red Sox Racing League race number 2. And now for our touring class, it looks like we're headed into the hairpin here. Kind of unorthodox, very late at apex there. New line for Austin Knight. Clearly it's working though, because look at the lead that he has accomplished. But he's going to come down the back straightaway here, and it'll be a good points day for him, obviously, because anytime you win the race, that just makes the point standings that much more in your favor. So he's going to come down and head into the chicane there one more time, hop the curb, and here he's going to come down the front straightaway. And our TCR win here at Montreal is going to go to Austin Knight. So again, congratulations to both of our winners here, Ross Booth and Austin Knight, after a great race here today at Montreal, and offer our congratulations to all drivers for a great and exciting race. But let's go ahead and give you our unofficial results, assuming that iRacing has populated them for me. Let's go ahead and give you our final results here tonight. And you can see some of the times are still tentative, but Ross Booth with our overall win, Mitch Heller with a second, Alex Kietzlar in third, Adam Jones in fourth. In the fifth spot, we do have Chad Dalton in sixth, James Prostel Jr., Robert Cantian in seventh, Chris Widener in eighth, and then Reed Rundle in ninth. And now for our TCR results, Austin Knight, again with our TCR win here this evening, in second in class, Ben Schweiger. Mark Wilson in third, Jason Breifogel in fourth, Les Turner in fifth, and the remaining results will flash by for TCR. And then we did have 5 drivers that did not complete laps here tonight. So let's go ahead and find our race winner. Try to get his car on screen and showcase him if we can. All right, well, I have Ross Booth here on camera. Let's see. Well, there's Austin Knight, so we'll grab him. All right, Austin. All right, I gotta switch myself over here. There we go, Austin. I heard the shouts there, so obviously excited for your race here today. It was a great battle there in TCR, as it always is, and you guys are really close to each other. But somehow after that pit stop, you managed to just pull off into the sunset. Just talk about that race for you.
Oh, not after the pit stop, after the dang start. I didn't mean to make this the last of first YouTube video challenge, but hey, I certainly did it. Oh my gosh, that was... There's a pool of sweat under me, and I honestly, if somebody can collect it all and just name it Lake Tryhard, oh my gosh, that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I know I was talking on the stream too, when you get a slowdown penalty on lap number 1, it's about 10 times worse than getting any other lap, so you had to overcome that. But just talk about overall the battle that you had with Schweiger, Wilson, Breifogel was trying to come back up there, couldn't quite make it. Just overall, just kind of summarize that, especially that last battle at the end there.
Okay, that last battle, I need to mute the in-game people because they're all over the place. But yeah, the last race battle was so much fun. You know, Montreal is such a hard place to pass with the long straights followed by chicanes and long straights. But when you get there, it's all about the exit in these cars, and I was braking earlier than they were, and I was just nailing off my exits, squaring off the corners, using the curbs to my advantage. This Elantra, you can really attack these curbs to the point where you become a kangaroo, and it just works. Coming out of the wall of champions, the final chicane, I squared off the final curb, and I was able to get past Mark right there. Ben was very fun to get around, but you know, the GT3s also were helping me a little bit. I think I used one of them as a pick at a time that gained a second on the leaders ahead of me by just letting them by. And also them fighting each other. You know, when 2 cars fight each other, it's gonna give you the upper hand, and this has been a long time coming.
Yeah, talk about picks with a salty basketball fan there. But either way, man, you got that's where my brain's already scattered to. You got to win here today in race number 2. We head to Watkins Glen next week, so we'll see if you can go back to back there. Any shout outs, thanks you want to give for your victory efforts here tonight?
Absolutely. I want to thank my entire team over at Apparel Racing. I've been getting them into TCR racing, the entire TCR community on iRacing. We've just decided now that, you know, we're going to start making our own schedules next season, and I've taken up the reins, and they let me take up the reins and make weekly updates and weekly videos for that. So very happy for their open arms. Everybody at Apex Racing Academy, George for his wonderful coaching. I couldn't have done this performance without his coaching right there. My sponsors over at Fanatec, Racing Pride, Flash Gaming, their new hoodie is coming out very soon, and Aporia Customs. Speaking of hoodies, the Lead Paul Racing hoodie is on sale at Aporia Customs. And everybody watching this, Max, Barrett, y'all are awesome. I'm gonna go take a nap or something because that was worth it all. Woo-hoo!
It's like you had a little bit of practice doing interviews, but congrats, man, and we'll talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
And then, well, we have our overall in GT3 winner, Ross Booth. I was saying it's redemption for last week. I'm not sure what happened to you last week, but obviously you had to pull off the grid and start last to first and wasn't able to obviously do that. So you got the pole here. You had to battle there with Heller for a little bit, but then you just drove off into the sunset. Just talk about your race, man.
Yeah, no, definitely a redemption race. For some reason, I couldn't get the car started last week at Mosport on the grid for whatever reason, but it started this race, and Mitch had a heck of a start, and I wasn't as aggressive into turn 1 as he was, and he got around me there, and then I was just sort of patiently waiting behind him, and I got a good run down the back straight one time, and he let me go, and that was sort of it.
Yeah, we talk about, obviously with you guys, the class interaction, it either ends up being a blessing or a curse, and obviously I think here today a little bit easier here with the straightaways versus last week, but it definitely had, at least in the later end of the field, it had a lot of interesting moments. Was the slower cars, the TCRs, did they present any kind of challenge for you, or was your gap kind of enough to give you some breathing room?
The one challenge that I had was I was coming up on one TCR and I wanted to pit, and I was sort of like feathering off the gas because I was going to catch him before I was going to hit turn one, or the last corner there. So I was trying to time it so I didn't interfere with his race and get into pit road cleanly. You just catch them so fast, and it's so hard to judge when you're going to get to them on the straightaway, and it's just need more time and experience to really nail that out.
Yeah. Most certainly, and I'm looking at your schedule, what I see on the Discord. It says next week you guys are at Watkins Glen Cup Classic, which is basically the super speedway of road courses, because if memory serves, that doesn't even have the interloop. So what do you think is going to happen there? Probably what I would say is going to be the easiest, but probably the most intense track of the season.
Thankfully, I really like Watkins, but it's going to be a draft fest with that sort of layout. So I imagine fuel saving and just being patient in traffic, and you'll probably end up winning that race on pit road by having a really good stop and getting out in clean air is my guess.
All right, well, we'll see if you're able to do that and go get the back-to-back. But any shout-outs, thanks you want to give for your victory here tonight in GT3?
Just shout out to Les. I'm not sure where Terry was tonight, but hopefully he can make it out to the next one. They always do a great job, and it's always really clean racing here, and I really enjoy racing here and battling with the guys. So we'll see everyone at the next one.
All right, thanks again, man. Congrats, and maybe we'll talk to you on the podium next week as well.
Sounds good.
And that is our post race show here, Red Sox Racing League, and saw a great race here at Montreal. So it's Corey Silva here in the booth. Make sure you like and subscribe if you have not done so. Still on our road to 1,000. We do have a lot of new content coming on the channel in the next coming weeks, so make sure you stay tuned to all of our social media outlets and make sure you don't miss a minute. But Corey Silva signing out of the booth here tonight. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.